evening, if you can hear me. Whoa, whoa. Some flooding. Have to drive very slow on the way home. There's these big puddles coming into the road in this one section. It's got construction on it because it's been raining a lot here. But I don't have to be in a hurry, and I'll be at a bigger road pretty soon. Even though you can have, you don't want a hydroplane. So I don't see anybody yet on this. Maybe it's too late. Maybe no one's going to show up. But I'll just talk anyway. But T approved of their exit method is what I named this live stream. Because I want to I'm saying that like I know that, and yet I'm fully aware that T wasn't in her vehicle at the time, and we don't have anything conclusive that I can point to and say to you to prove that statement, except for, I think it's audio tape 169, where the topic comes up of Alodi, I think, bringing up the subject, and I've talked about this before in a previous live stream. And so yes, I labeled this T approved of their exit method. Though, like I was just saying a minute ago, before a car was blinding me with their lights, that I can't I can't point to absolute proof of that statement, though I know it's true, but I can't show anybody exactly how I know it's true. I mean, I can, a little bit, and that's why I wanted to talk about it a little bit, was because in audio tape 169, Alodi, I think, brings up the subject of how he wants to be ready enough to leave by not losing his consciousness. I think that's the way he put it, which was something that was talked about as a possibility up until then. This was in 1984. Okay, because they were talking about how he might leave and what the exit would be like from 1975. It wasn't like a new subject. Anybody that was in the group for 22 years had thought about it every which way that you could think about it. I know, because I was there, and I thought about it every which way I could think about it. And in my mind, it didn't matter. And if it did matter to somebody, then that was something they were going to have to outgrow or not be in the group. It's as simple as that. because Tiendo didn't have positive knowledge of the exact circumstances of how they would leave. They felt very strongly that it would be witnessed. And that the world would see it. And the fact is that it's true. It was witnessed. They thought it could be witnessed by the media, actually witnessing them walking on board a spacecraft. They talked about this a number of times. But they also knew that an individual would grow to not care how they exited and whether they retained their consciousness on board the spacecraft. And that it was something to outgrow. And I recognize that, I understand that. At the time when we were talking about it, I must admit it was a little bit unsettling to think that if I got on board the spacecraft and I was, whether it was because I walked on board the spacecraft or glided up a ramp of some sort onto the spacecraft, or whether with my vehicle, or if it was just my soul that was taken on board the spacecraft, and I was on, and like my soul was, or let's say my vehicle was taken and laid down on a table, and then next to that table was another table with the physical vehicle that was grown for me by the next level, like grown like a plant, like on a vine. And was next to me, and at the next level would do something that would move the soul out of this vehicle that I have now, had it graduated, into the vehicle that was grown for me. I must admit I was, and whether I would remember, either when I got into the next level, or when when my soul would have been moved into a new vehicle. Holy shit, a whole bunch of stuff on the road. I'm glad I didn't hit that. There's somebody on the other side of the road, like stopped in the middle of the road. I don't know what that is. Looked like there was a bucket there that I missed. I don't know if somebody skidded out or something, but it's been pretty good so far on the road. Anyway, I'm almost at the interstate, but so I didn't know if I would retain my consciousness. And at one point, Tiendo said that you wouldn't necessarily remember everything that took place when you weren't in this vehicle anymore. You wouldn't remember the things that this vehicle remembers, but you would have gained all the lessons that you got from being in the human vehicle. I remember when they said that, I was a little bit like unsettled about it. It's like, and what T said about that in another tape in 169 was that you would outgrow being concerned about that. And I'm putting together several things that were said in that regard in different tapes that we still haven't re-listened to, but are on the list of re-listening to them all. And because it's only the vehicle, the human vehicle that we have, that cares about the memories of what the human vehicle experienced. The mind, the next level mind that occupies the soul at graduation time, is the only part of us that is of value, because it's what contains the strength of mind from the lessons learned. And the strength of mind of the learning of lessons, as was really talked about a lot in tape 171, comes by how fast and how thoroughly an individual blocks out the thoughts and feelings that were of the human kingdom, that were threatening. Doesn't mean you block out feelings of joy or happiness or because you're upgrading your happiness when you're in the classroom or when you're in this process. I mean, it still doesn't mean that, like, while you're still in the human kingdom with a human vehicle, even if you're in the process of growing, which many people are right now. I mean, everybody's potentially, to some degree, in the process of growing. Not everybody. There's some people that are stagnant. There's some people that are going backwards. But it doesn't mean that they're going to be stagnant all the time. And it doesn't mean they're going to be going backwards all the time. But once they lose their vehicle, then that program is pretty much set in stone of what they have become, what they believe, what they believe is a big part of it. And belief isn't just a matter of your thoughts. Belief has to do with how you live your life, the things you do, and the things you don't do. So that if you believe in, like, that the ideal behavior is to love your neighbor as yourself, the way that Jesus taught, then you would be striving to enact that in your daily life. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect at it, but you're going to want to be perfect at it. You're going to strive to keep on improving in that regard. And so that every time you see yourself thinking about somebody else in a negative way, you're going to block it. if you've got a task of some sort that has to evaluate people or, determine whether somebody is doing a job correctly, that's not the same thing. But if you don't have that kind of a job, then what somebody else does is none of your business unless they are bringing danger to themselves or other people. Or they are about to damage a tool of some sort, or, those are like emergency circumstances to where if you got to say something to somebody that might be a little harsh to get them to stop doing something, that would be a positive thing to do. But if you're just going through your life, unless you read something that somebody said on the internet that says like, let's say the person on the internet is like what I'm doing, and says that T and Do were from the Creator's Kingdom, and they say, you're an idiot for saying that. I don't think the best response would be to say, you're the idiot for saying that to me. I think the better response would be either no response at all, because you're not required to say anything to anybody else. But if you do want to say something to them, I think one of the best responses is that I feel good about when I do, and it took me a while to not want to strike out. I didn't seem to have that difficulty of striking out at people that were striking out at me. But it did. Sometimes I was tested in that regard, and I still can be tested in that regard. And I can still say things that to me are not the best way that my older member would say something in response to somebody. But I'm continuing to work on it. And the fact is that when I look at my responses, I can tell pretty much when I'm starting to be sarcastic. And sometimes I just let it out and hit the send button and it sends it out. But I try not to be sarcastic, because that was one of the things that T told me would keep me off the spacecraft. Because members of the next level are not sarcastic. That's a form of negativity. So, but I think the best thing to do is when somebody recently said to me that I must know, and they capitalized M-U-S-T, I must know that what T and Do were saying was not true. I mean, can you imagine somebody thinking that I must know that it's not true, and yet I'm talking for days and weeks and years saying that I believe it's all true. So how can I must know? I mean, so it's like when somebody says something like that and they capitalized M-U-S-T, as if they were yelling it loud. And then they were very polite before that and after that, saying that. So when I first responded to it, I wanted to, kind of put him in his place. But then I realized that there was not going to be any value to that. So I asked questions. I said, why do you think I must know that? And I wasn't really thinking I was being sarcastic. I wanted to confront him with exactly what he was saying about me. hoping that he would recognize that he didn't know what he was talking about. And maybe it would stimulate him to give me examples. Maybe it wasn't a him, maybe it was a her, I don't know for sure. But whatever, it doesn't make any difference. But that's like an area that, it says in Revelation 14 that those 144,000 and the ones that were singing the song were the ones that sang the song of Moses and the song of Jesus and now the song of T&O have no guile. Guile, I think is the spelling of that word. And I think it means deceit. In other words, they don't have any reason to, well, there's a truck that's off the road in the left lane. I wonder if, yeah, he went into the side, into the middle. Maybe hit water and glided. Well, that's good. I'm just going nice and slow, staying in the left lane. I'm going to let this person pass me so that, because I think it's more likely that the right lane would have puddles in it. But if he wants to pass, then I'll get back in the left lane. But I'm just going to cruise along at 60 miles an hour. Seems to be a safe speed. But so that's how we build our minds, by blocking out negativity about ourselves and about others. We don't need to have it. And the faster we can do it, the more we grow. And so when it attacks us again, because it will, because the human kingdom is filled with it. People don't even know how negative they are. A lot of people. Some people know they are, and they don't even care about changing it. Because they don't have any reason to change it in their minds. They think it's true that when they're being negative to somebody else, it's because they deserve, because they are negative, those people. And they're pointing it out to them. Or they're just talking behind their back. Gossip was another thing that was on the list of minor offenses that Next Level members would not do. They wouldn't, gossip about people. I mean, I don't know if I'm accused, if I'm guilty of that. When I talk about Mark and Sarah in the lawsuit, I know I don't like doing it. I don't think it's really gossip in this case, because I only say the things that I have first-hand experience with. Or I'm trying to guess why they might be doing something. But I don't know if that's wrong or not for me to do, but I only usually do it when, and maybe this is justification or whatever, but when somebody asks for updates on the lawsuit and stuff like that, or if something is said in an audio tape and it shows again that T&O wanted all the information to be available to people after they left, including the audio tapes. And so to hold them back for 25 years and then sue me and Carl Odie and Kathy because we participated in providing them in some shape or form to people in degrees. It's just wrong. But I didn't choose to be sued. Anyway, so yes, sometimes I do talk about them, and sometimes I talk about other people in the world in ways that can be negative, seen as negative. But I don't know. I don't think I could be wrong about this, but I don't think the way I do that is the kind of negativity that many people think is justified. Like, you know, but in any case, don't use me as an example if you think I'm also being negative by talking about Mark and Sarah. I mean, you use TMDO as examples that you'll learn about when you listen to the tapes. And I'll try to share them, of course, as we have been. I have been, and Kathy has been. And Carl Odie has been. And Juan Odie has been. Okay, the big trucks are passing me. So anyway, but that's how we gain strength. By, like, let's say an influence comes in and says, you're worthless. You know, if you can't do everything that TMDO taught, then you shouldn't try. You're a hypocrite for trying. That's a lie. That's a lie. I know that's a lie. You'll hear Doe talking about it. But there is no perfect. It's a continuous struggle. And we keep on upgrading. It's not necessarily, it's not a pleasant task, really. But it doesn't mean that it's a negative, it doesn't mean that it's a task that's depressing either. And of course there's times where you're not so bombarded and you have clarity of thought. And you do recognize that you've grown. And you do recognize that you're getting better at dealing with certain things. And but if you get into a place to where you think you've accomplished it, you know, that you are exactly where you need to be and you've accomplished, you know, you don't have this problem or that problem, well then you're not that sensitive yet about the degree in which you still have things to overcome in this world. You haven't been confronted with certain things that would put you to the test again and again and again. Because you know, in the classroom, I wasn't aware that I had things to overcome, really. Oh yeah, that's one of my problems that I had. That I didn't, you know, I thought I was doing good. And Doe reinforced that a few times with me. I mean, because in some ways I was doing good. Just because I didn't make the grade doesn't mean that I don't have next level qualities. The same as anybody else. I see next level qualities in other people. People that don't even necessarily believe in TNO. It's because the next level's been working with our ancestors, for thousands of years, which is a short time in the next level. And so we all have things about us that the next level would probably say that we're doing well in that regard. But see, the object is to gain strength of mind, strength of being quick to block out the thoughts that you know you don't want to have in your computer, in your brain, in your mind, to linger as part of your mind. And so you block them out as fast as possible. Let's say you grew up in a family and your mom and dad or your siblings told you over and over again that you never amount to anything. You get bad grades in school, whatever, you're not going to become anything. And, let's say you want to be you want to do something with art. And they might say, well, you'll never be an artist, you'll never be a good singer, or you'll never make money doing it. There's all kinds of ways that humans put down other humans. You're too thin, you're too fat. I saw we started to watch that show called Sheldon, and then I didn't even realize that the figure Sheldon was a young kid, he's in high school, but he's probably like grade school age. He's like brilliant, but yet some things he's completely in the dark about. And he's real arrogant until he gets confronted with something, and once in a while, and sometimes he recognizes that, well, you didn't know that, But sometimes it's, but anyway, that show came from the Big Bang show that I hadn't seen any of them. So we started to watch them, Kathy and I. And there was an episode where the guy that's kind of from India, a friend of Sheldon, his parents arranged for him to meet an Indian girl in the United States who they were thinking he would marry. And they meet, and he didn't want to meet her at first because, he was like afraid what she'd look like and stuff, and was not against it, and he had trouble talking with women. And then when he finally did meet her, and he identified that she was attractive, he couldn't stop saying over and over again, talking about when she was fat, because he knew her from grade school or something like that. And he kept on saying, yeah, when you were fat, when you were fat, when you were fat. I was thinking, what kind of show is this that they're making such a big deal that somebody has more flesh on their bones than somebody else? And making that into a big negative. I know that people do that. It's a big problem for Some people. It's not the problem of the people that have the weight on them. I'm not saying that the weight is necessarily a good thing, but there's degrees of it, right? I mean, maybe it can stress your heart more sometimes, or other things, but it's certainly not something to put on TV to like drill that into people so that they think it's like funny to be calling people fat. But it becomes something that somebody that does have weight on their bones it can be a test for them, of course, like it would be a test for me when people insult me, my vehicle, in different ways, which has happened over the years. And yet, at the same time, we can block it. Block the negative aspect of that. Because, like Tiendo taught, that there's some individuals in the classroom, I think Star Erdy was one, who said they could look at butter and gain weight. That might be an extreme way of thinking. But, people have different metabolisms and stuff. And so, we can't judge anybody by that, or by their wealth, or by their gender, or by their sexuality, or by their color of their skin, or by how well they speak, and how well they write, or what kind of handicaps they have, or it's not our place to put people down. In our minds, if we're doing it in our minds, it's just about the same thing as if we did it verbally, out loud. And Jesus even talked about that. He said, if you lust on somebody, even in your heart, you have committed the sin of adultery. In other words, when you were committed to somebody else, and you permitted yourself to break that commitment by lusting for another, because that was the stage of lesson material at that time, that you were committing adultery in your heart. So that was showing us that we are responsible for our thoughts. And Tiendo said that, but they didn't refer to what Jesus said, because they hardly ever referred to what Jesus said. They did when they felt to, but they didn't use that the way that Christians do, and I don't blame Christians for doing it, because they should. If they're going to talk about anything, they should talk about what Jesus said about it, if Jesus said something about it. I'm dragging a branch. Oh, darn. What in the world? Oh, jeez. I got it off. I didn't think I couldn't see it that well, so. All right, folks. It's getting pretty late, so I don't think I'm gonna continue to talk. I'll take a look at the comments. Well, that's good. There aren't that many. I mean, not that I don't want anybody to comment, but we don't share the tapes anymore and haven't since May of 2021 when M&S served us with the lawsuit. Not sure what you mean by what you said. How come I can't see that? What somebody said. I don't know who Kathy's referring to. Oh, I said it. I guess I said something by mistake about sharing the tapes. No, I'm just thinking that no, we don't share the tapes, but we do share the content sometimes of tapes we listen to, because that's not a copyright action. That's sharing the information that we possess, because I possess that information because I got it from individuals that also possessed it, Rick Odie and from Juan Odie. And I also was there during those meetings. So I'm like a partial owner of those tapes just from being present, like a work for hire kind of thing. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, Mark and Sarah seemed to be claiming that at one point. Anyway, I'm going to end the stream. So good night, folks.